Okay, so today I'm joined by Petplan Equine expert Charlie Hutton, and we're going to be talking about bringing horses back, bringing riders back into the competition arena. It doesn't matter whether it's after a break from lockdown, perhaps through injury. There are lots of reasons why we might be coming back to the arena after a little break. So, hi Charlie, how are you?
Yeah, good evening. I'm very well, thank you. Looking forward to this.
Super. Well, let's get started. We've got our member questions to work through today. So we are going to start with your top tip for introducing a young horse to the competition arena.
Yes, we are indeed. Now, I think there are so many things to consider when looking to produce a young horse and bring a horse into the competition arena. I think first and foremost it starts at home. You have to make sure that your horse is confident and settled in your home environment. We've actually recently just relocated yards, and that's been a good indication of how settled our horses are and what they might be like in a competition environment. And actually we've got 3-year-olds through to 6 and 7-year-olds and so on. So it's been a really interesting experiment. And I think it really does show that you need to make sure that your system is in a routine, that your horses get, all their essential needs, and that they you're considering your training from a mental and a physical aspect too. But really the important thing is to build that partnership and that relationship, and to, how do I word this? To develop their comfort zone, and to broaden your horse's horizons, but without pushing them too far. I think the saying is you have a horse's trust forever, but it only takes a moment to break it. And that, I think, always resonates with me, and you have to really get to know your horses. But then more specifically with a kind of training routine, things like hacking. We do a lot of pole work and jumping with ours, as well as going around in circles too. So I think all of that combined then goes into the idea of this confident horse with a good foundation, which then hopefully things like flower pots and judges shouldn't be too scary. That would be my top tip.
Super. Flower pots and judges, all things that we've really missed, and then we'll go out and hopefully we won't spook at them, but you never know. Okay, so our next one, this is a really good one from one of our wonderful members, and they have said, I struggle to keep my horse straight on the centre line. How can I improve my straightness at home before competing?
I have to say, when I got this one, I did chuckle to myself because I've just spent 2 days doing centre lines. So I thought, well, I'm not quite yet dead straight, so perhaps I can share my ideas. But it's quite simple, really. I think a lot of us can be daunted by going down the centre line, and we tend to put off riding down the centre line because it leaves us very vulnerable, especially with a young horse. And you get that feeling when you're trotting down the centre line that you're wobbling, and then you think, well, I won't be doing that again. So I tend to start out on the 3/4 line, just getting them used to not being on the track. And in between both leg and hand, really, or seat, leg and hand. And then from there, when you start the idea of trotting down the centre line, it just becomes that. It just becomes going down the centre line in a normal trot, or a normal, well, starting off really in trot. And something to kind of note, I think, with this is that the walk as a pace has no natural moments of suspension, whereas the trot and the canter do. So if you try and do it in walk, you're more likely to wobble. Whereas if you've got the momentum from the trot and from the canter, it should be a little bit easier. So start in trot, down the centre line, and then from there introduce walk transitions and just do walk trot, and then you can build it up from walk trot transitions to halts, and initially don't worry if your halt isn't square, if you're not straight. Just get the horse confident with halting and giving with the reins as well, especially once you're in halt. Just pat them, just give them confidence. And then from there, you can start to introduce more straightness and accuracy and directness with your transitions.
Super, that's really great for our members to be able to crack on with practicing at home before we're all back to competing again. So the next one, we're going to move away a little bit from the horse and think about rider and rider mindset. So I really like this question. I think this is a really good one to get stuck into. So competition nerves, what are your top tips for improving mindset before returning to competing?
That's a good question. I think we can all suffer from them in one way, shape or form, whether it's wanting to overperform or fear of failure. There are so many areas to delve into, but I would honestly say, and I'm really fortunate, I'm in a biased position because my partner is a performance coach. So I would definitely say, if you have access to one, use one. And I hear myself often saying as a coach, I'm not a mindset coach. You need to find somebody that can give you qualified experience. But from a competitive side of things, it's routine, it's repetition, it's also, I think, the main thing to take into account this time around, with coming out of the third lockdown, is that I think all of us have felt it more now, more than ever, and we're all desperate to get out, but do not put so much pressure on yourself that you are worried about it going wrong. Just go in, find your feet again. I mean, I haven't been out for a year, and it's that familiarization of packing the lorry, making sure everything's in the right place, and you do get the butterflies. So just don't take the pressure off. Just dip your toe in the water, see what the temperature's like, and then start to build your kind of your mindset from there, really, and be realistic. I think don't overachieve is something that I have to be careful of. So I think that can be specific to everybody. Some people might overachieve and some might underachieve. So think about what you need for you and don't worry about anyone else. Everyone's in the same boat.
It's all about enjoying it, isn't it? And having something to aim for. And of course, the Petplan Equine Area Festivals are just the perfect aim for so many of our members. So thinking about aims and goals, getting to championships, we're going to have a little chat about test riding now. So our next question is test riding at home. Should we be practicing our tests? Our member who asked this question has said that their horse tends to anticipate movements and second guess what's coming next. So is this something that we should be avoiding, or is there anything that you would recommend to sort of combat that common problem?
I think this is a really interesting one, actually. If you'd have asked me 10 years ago, I probably would have given you a totally different answer to the answer I give you now. And I think that, from my opinion, you have to remember that a horse doesn't know whether they're inside the whiteboards or outside the whiteboards. What changes is the rider and the environment you're in. And so if your horse is used to changing environments, going hacking, going from one arena to another, that should be less difficult. But more importantly, if the rider changes, then the horse can read that above all else. And so should you practice a test at home? My answer would be yes, but in this specific scenario, if a horse is intelligent and starts anticipating, you really need to consider being quite tactical. So that might mean that if you're doing a medium trot and your horse gets overexcited, perhaps you do your medium trot, but as you get through X, you take the pressure off and you relax into more of a jog. So it becomes more of an exercise that you ride your lines, that you go in the direction that you want to go, but you perhaps don't send signals to the horse that they can read and think, I know what's coming. And it's that age-old saying of, you ride a sensitive like a hot horse and a hot horse like a sensitive horse, which basically means you try to use smooth, consistent leg aids with the sensitive one. Therefore, you're not shocking them with what's the word? And my mind's gone blank, but an aid that has that perhaps they've not noticed, and then they overreact, and then that reinforces your mindset of, oh well, I perhaps shouldn't have used my leg, because if I do use my leg, he overreacts. And so you've really got to think about your lines that you're riding. And perhaps the other thing you could do would be to ride a different test, something that is around the same sort of level, that you are doing different circle shapes, different serpentine loops, that, or even riding the test backwards. If you really do feel that your horse is still anticipating the lines that you're riding, then do different lines, but still have it in the back of your mind that you want to do that test on the day, because that's what it's all about, hopefully down the centre line of those Petplan championships.
That's exactly what we would like to see and hear from our members. So the next one, we've been stuck indoors for quite some time now, horses and riders. It's quite difficult to maintain fitness on both sides for a long period of time without having anything to aim for. So thinking about fitness now, when it comes to horse fitness, what are your best tips for bringing your horse back up to tip-top competition fitness and strength, whether it's, like I say, waiting through lockdown, coming back after an injury? What would your best advice be to bring a horse back to where it needs to be to compete?
So the first thing would be follow your vet's advice if there's an injury, and we have a great team of trusted vets and farriers and so on. So work with your home team to have a program set and go with that if you've had a horse that's got an injury. But above all else, you know, trust your instincts. So for example, quite often when you're rehabbing a horse and you're having to do 40 minutes of walk twice a day, and your horse is feeling a bit fresh and it's coming out of winter, it's really unrealistic that that horse bouncing around up in the air, looking at it on the end of a lunge line thinking, oh no, it's jumping in the air again, is going to be suitable for your horse's well-being and keeping those legs from bashing themselves and causing more injury. So be practical, I think, above all else. But more broadly, from a fitness side of things, I try to personally think of dressage horses more like event horses, in the sense that you do some interval training, you start to build up slowly. If you rush into anything too quickly, obviously it's the same as us, that's when more injuries can come back. And so I really try to plan ahead and set, in my mind, I set kind of 12 weekly goals where I'm working towards each horse's fitness for age and stage, and making sure that it's appropriate. So obviously what you do with a 4-year-old would be totally different to an 8-year-old and so on. But I really try to take that in mind. It's the same really in a lot of senses for many of these questions, is it starts at the beginning, and it starts so much earlier than perhaps you might not have thought about before.
Super. So we've got horse fitness covered, and thinking about rider fitness now, what are your best tips for making sure that we as riders are competition ready and in our best shape? And particularly here, thinking about sitting trot, which again, it's something that I think a lot of people, me personally as a rider, I'm not a huge fan. I need to be in good shape to do it. I'm sure lots of people are in the same boat. So what would your top tips be for rider fitness, making sure we're competition ready and getting ourselves in the best shape and improving our sitting trot?
I think it depends on the type of rider that you are. I'm one that, you know, I'd still look for ways to improve, and I've got a beautiful horse at the moment. I've got several beautiful horses, but I've got one in particular that has amazing paces, and I'm trotting around going, oh my goodness, keep my legs still, keep my hands still, sit up, what are you doing? So I actually made a vow to myself that next week is rising trot without stirrups week. So it depends how sadistic you want to be. I'm quite all in, let's go for it, let's get the improvements going. So that's one thing you can do. And also, just like, to keep it simple, just laps. Just do one lap and another lap and another lap, and build it up and build it up and build it up. Obviously, from a rider fitness point of view, there is an element that you can do off the horse. So very conscious about doing Pilates, yoga, things that will help free up your mobility, your joints, your athleticism, so that you can move with the horse. And then beyond that, also, you know, it does take some fitness doing an extended trot across the diagonal. You know, it's a long way, and so you want to try to do some aerobic exercise. There's only so much time in a day. You know, a lot of our members work. You know, I coach as well as ride, and it's hard to fit it all in. But in an ideal world, if you can do some form of running and some cycling and something like that, that is going to help. But yeah, I'd say the most important thing for me is moving with the horse, trying to be elastic, try to not fight that hideous feeling of bouncing and thinking, oh no, I can't sit to the trot. Just let go with your hips, let go with your back, shut your eyes, and just go for it.
Brilliant. And often it looks better than it feels as well. So words to describe, wonderful. And our last one, we are going to just have a quick look at goal setting. So our final question today, we've got, how should I best manage my aims, and how should I realistically work towards moving up a level and improving my scores?
Yeah. Make it specific to age and stage of horse, and that's really crucial, is to try to think of my horse's training that they're in almost like term time, like in school. So I try to think first and foremost that they have, like, I see an annual plan, and I try and factor in when they're having, say, a 3-month schooling period, and then maybe where they have some time that they'll have some resting period. But then moving up to the next level is more about being able to gradually, incrementally improve the degree of difficulty in your daily training, so that when you are training at home, you are almost training at a slightly higher degree of difficulty than you would be competing. So you've got to let your horse tell you, but you've also got to let your coach give you advice as well. So many of us so many riders that I coach would often say, I'd say, what are your goals for the next 6 months? And they say, oh, well, I'll just do prelim, or I'll do novice for this season, and perhaps I'll do a freestyle. So have you thought about elementary? And they say, no, I'm not ready for elementary yet. And so it's really up to the coaches to try to nurture the rider's comfort zone and also their aim and ability. I genuinely believe that there are a lot of horses out there that are more able than perhaps their riders believe that they can do. And I often hear that, you know, I didn't want to make a mistake, so I didn't do that. So don't let your self-doubt get in the way, and trust your team around you to say, actually, I'm going to give it a go, because what have you got to lose? You know, I mean, we spend so much time in our lives worrying about what other people think, and worrying about if we're going to make mistakes, and actually you need to try to be a little bit more ambitious, perhaps.
I think that's the perfect way to start the season, and the perfect messaging to inspire and motivate our members to go out and achieve their goals, whether it's starting a prelim for the first time, moving up to 70% at novice, or competing Grand Prix and internationally as you do, Charlie. So thank you so much for your expert advice today. I must thank our partners at Petplan Equine as well. They've been with us on the journey in the area festivals for over 20 years, and from all of us who've taken part, who follow them, and to our riders aiming for the area festivals this year, huge thank you.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. I also don't mind, sorry, if you don't mind me saying, I think that I just want to say that the commitment for riders that I've seen throughout lockdown has been unbelievable. And I think that everybody whether you're competing at Petplan, at prelim, all the way through now to Prix St George into one, you know, there needs to be some real credit and recognize with how hard it is to keep your horses going, keep your training going. And I see so many of my clients in particular, and also on social media, how dedicated people are. I think it's really amazing, and it's great to be involved with Petplan and BD. And I think that yeah, everybody deserves a pat on the back during these hard times. It's not easy.
Qualification for the Petplan Equine Summer Area Festivals, including freestyles, is now underway. To find out more about how you can get involved, qualify for this fantastic summer event, visit britishdressage.co.uk and head to the championship section. Our thanks go to Petplan Equine for their dedicated support of this series and of our interview today. Visit www.petplanequine.co.uk to find out more about the team, their care, and what they can do for your horse, rider, and pet insurance.